How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Sip Talk. I'm Pete Sippis, joined by my co-host and brother Alex Sippis, and joining us today as our guest from the Bay Area, originally from Reno, currently in the Bay Area. She's a digital writer for baseball and basketball and everything in the Bay Area. She does a lot of stuff. She has two podcasts. Also a student of the Grape. We'll get into that later. But before we do all of that, let's say hello to our new friend, Jessica Kleinschmidt. Jess, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
How many podcasts do you do a day, do you think?
Well, the ones that I host, I do that 3 times a week. And then I think I do like appearances anywhere from 1 to 5 times a week. It depends. Like by the end of the week, I'm burnt out. And like, think about it this way. So today I recorded 2 things for Bach Talk just because I wanted to get them out of the way. And on top of that, I wrote like 3 or 4 articles. So imagine doing that. And by the end of the day, luckily I'm a social person or because like I'm just exhausted. So if I don't speak well right now, it'll be just because like I'm overwhelmed with all the people I've had to speak to today. So just go with it. So it varies, but I really love it. It's my favorite part of my job because not until like the last year, I wasn't usually one to come on as far as like podcasts, like radio spots. Yeah, people want to talk about the A's and the Giants all the time, but these have been really cool because it's beyond just baseball. So I think I gave you like a really long-winded answer, but you get it.
I like the idea of Sip Talk being like a nightcap of a day of podcasts. Like,
Okay.
you go one podcast to another, have like a little Bloody Mary, and then, kind of get into the wine, and then you just get to Sip Talk, or I'm just going to crash on the couch, have
Yeah,
some vodka, something hard, maybe a nice little thing of whiskey, nice and smooth,
there
and
you
just nice little
go.
nightcap. So
Yes. I love that.
So welcome to the nightcap.
Thank you. I appreciate
after
Um,
hours.
After hours, Sip Talk after hours. So first, I would love just to kind of hear a little bit about your journey. I know it's kind of the most boring and basic question ever, but it'd be great to just because it's been awesome to see you kind of like rise through the industry over the last couple of years. Just following you on Twitter, and just seeing you get the Bay Area sports job, seeing you cover the A's, and now you have 2 podcasts, Bach Talk and Corked Up. So just if you could kind of like elaborate about your journey a little bit, maybe some role models that you had in the industry and like any backup plans or
backup plans. There was this, I wanted to do this since I was 12.
yeah.
This is what it's always been. And you mentioned it's a boring question, and I could see that, but my journey was anything but boring. I'm a college dropout. I didn't go to school. I tried to go to
Aware.
school, but I was just like, okay, I'm not like fuck this. I am not doing it. And so it was like I was working for the federal government at the time because I got a great job. My mom got me an amazing job. I wasn't a spy or anything like that. It was everybody's always like, oh, the CIA. I was like, yeah, at 15, I worked for the CIA, guys, like chill. So I was working there for about 6 or 7 years, and I've always wanted to do this. And I was like, well, I have like I don't know, 300 followers on Twitter, and I'm blogging about the A's. I'm kind of writing for sites like my byline was getting on Fox Sports. Like I felt like I could actually do something. And when you think about me growing up, I played baseball with the guys up until I was a sophomore in high school. And then I switched to softball. I thought I was going to be the first female MLB player. That didn't happen because I couldn't like rake. Apparently, you have to be like super good or some shit. And so I love talking and I love writing. And I wish I could tell you how I started writing. I just always liked the written word. And my mom taught me like how to write cursive very early on. And so like I was just always like obsessed with words. So fast forward and like I don't even know how old I was, but I quit my government job, moved to the Bay Area, and I was like, oh, the A's and the Giants are going to hire me for sure. That didn't happen. So I had to work all these odd jobs, kind of blogging on the side. And then I got my first big gig when I was it was FanDuel. And so this is a fantasy website, and you're in Boston. Of course, you've heard of FanDuel. But we were writing content. So it'd be like, it was when Tim Tebow was starting to play baseball. Like, okay, well, I'll write about that. So like, it just like a lot of clickbaity fun, stuff. And, kept going and kept going. And I was freelancing for a bunch of places after FanDuel dropped me. And so I was about 6 months freelancing for everywhere, Fangraphs, MSN Sports, Yardbarker, all these places. And then finally I was like, just over it. Like I was like, I gave it 6 months. I can barely afford anything. And so I was on the phone with my best friend, Melanie, and she's the first female play-by-play broadcaster for the Orioles in the history of the organization. And she was on the other line and she was struggling too. And she was like, Jess, like, you can't quit. And I'm like crying to her. I was like, I'm fucking done. Like, I'm done. On the other line, there was a call from New York. Don't forget, let's not forget, I'm like broke at this point. So I'm thinking it's like a bill collector or something. So I ignore it. They leave a voicemail and I'm petrified to answer because I'm like, I don't want to know how much money I owe. I don't know. And it was MLB offering me a job. And it was cut 4, which was like, I believe in God and I pray and everything like that. I really felt like God was like, this is the perfect job for you. And so I started there and I was there for about a year and a half. And that's when NBC recruited me. And I've been there for 2 years and it's just been like a dream come true. And I've been able to kind of create my own stuff because I was hired as a producer, but now I'm the A's, reporter, and I'm doing reporting on TV, and I have the 2 shows and everything like that. And then of course I have that relationship with Rachel Luba and we're doing Corked Up and everything. So I wish I could tell you that it was so. I mean, it's not a boring question at all because I look back on it and I smile, but like also I'm like, holy shit, that was crazy. So it was just, it's kind of like that. And it's been very inspiring to a lot of people. And I'm realizing as a woman in this industry, the platform is a lot of responsibility. And so it's more than just writing a blog about Marcus Simeon no longer with the A's. Whew, that still hurts. But whatever. It's kind of one of those things. So it's not a boring question. And I feel like it's an important one because I do like to tell people, like, I'm not saying education's bad, but it's not if you don't have a college degree, you can still have your dream jobs. Like, that's okay.
Where'd you drop out of?
Truckee Meadows Community College. I think I have like a semester worth of credits if I ever feel crazy.
There you go. You can go back.
If I want to go back, yeah.
Be an honored speaker there.
I've always kind of wanted to do that because actually, for the first time ever, the Reno newspaper reached out. They wanted to write a feature on me, and I was like, "Okay, well, you have to tell them like I graduated from high school and that was it, and tell them I'm a college dropout. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, I don't want to lie." So that was kind of an interesting conversation to have with the reporters who reported like when I played softball there. So that was interesting. The last time I was in the paper was like a box score in high school for softball. So that's interesting.
I think last time I was in the newspaper was a slow pitch softball article. So
hell yeah. Did you go yard?
Me too.
Probably not.
Are you guys like crazy when you play slow pitch softball?
What do you mean crazy?
Define crazy.
That's a yes. That's a yes.
Like I want to win.
That is a yes.
I'm there to win.
There it is.
I got a little swag.
You're like, it's
I'm back-to-back pitcher of the year in Waco softball, Jess. I'm sorry, but like I'm a maestro on the mound, and
you have a jersey hanging up behind you. You definitely are that guy.
Those are soccer jerseys.
Sure.
But I do have some softball dry fits in the closet. Those are good little workout shirts.
And the reason why is like y'all like, well, what do you mean by that? I can tell like y'all aren't like you discovered steroids after high school and then you were the guys who were like, I'm gonna go yard and like, that kind of stuff. I appreciate that. Like I appreciate competition, obviously, but like there's always that guy who's just like, calm down, Arthur. Like we get it. You totally wish that you did that your sophomore year of JV. Y'all would have won the championship.
So true.
Sorry, Arthur. Chill.
I can finally play shortstop because I was demoted to mop up, rolling, pitching, and in left field. So I can finally play shortstop and be number 5 like Nomar.
Oh,
see, I'm a contact hitter. I like a nice little pokes into center field. Okay. We're gonna move the base runners. I love my pitching because just like cornhole, get some spin on the ball, read a little wind.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna say this right now. I have a championship under my belt, and someone in the Zoom got the last out in that championship game. So.
Tying runner on second, 2017 championship game.
Oh my gosh.
Fly out to deep center.
I literally love you guys so much right now. I'm not even kidding. This is the greatest thing.
That was probably one of the worst things about the pandemic. was not being able to play
I just
our
love how you guys
softball
like,
league this
wait,
summer.
what do you mean by those guys? What do you mean by those guys? That you just answered the question. Say less. Say less.
I'm just there to win. I'm not there to not win.
No, and I appreciate that. But like also, you know, there's
I'm not
sometimes
gonna be an asshole.
children there and you don't want to scare them, you know, like chill. It's slow pitch. You know what I mean? Like that's somebody's dad. Relax. Okay. Like
Well, the age group for it was, I think juniors in high school to like 4 or 5 years out of college. So
Okay.
it was mostly people our age.
that's good.
Great.
That's good.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about Cut 4? Because I mean, that's such an awesome asset that MLB has, and it's just a great outreach to people that are kind of our age. Because like baseball's kind of it's an old person's game. Like I mean, I grew up watching it, and like it doesn't have the appeal that other sports have. And
Yeah.
I think Cut 4 is a great way to make it fun and do all this social media stuff and make memes and stuff like that. So can you
So I
just
want
speak
to
to that a little
correct
bit?
you. Cut 4 doesn't make baseball fun. It reminds you it's fun. And that's kind of what I came from the beginning. I was like, that's interesting because we all like I always see the weird stuff, right? Like cool, the guy went yard, but like, why is he combining? Why did he just eat sunflower seeds and then eat 4 pieces of bubble gum? Like why I don't understand that. Like why? So that's the stuff that I think about, like the weird dugout shenanigans, because with NBA and NFL, it doesn't matter what happened in the game necessarily. We're looking at what LeBron's wearing after the game. We're looking at when Steph Curry arrives at the game. We're seeing like what Jimmy G is wearing when he arrives at the Super Bowl. That's what we care about, right? And baseball just doesn't have that, and I never understood why. And it was like it's hard because you care about the game itself. You do care about slash lines. You want to see how Jock Peterson is going up against the Giants, and he was a Giants killer in 2020. I know that because I just looked it up today. So just like stuff like that. But Jock Peterson also had a baby and announced it, and I get to talk about the babies and stuff. And so it was just kind of reminding you that baseball was fun, and quick blogs about it, because people our age get bored after 4 minutes. Like we're not going to read past that. And that's why Vines were big. And that's why TikTok's big, is because our attention spans are short. So even when I go to a baseball game as a fan, I can't sit the entire 9 innings. And I'll admit that. But I want to bring somebody with me who I can be like, hey, Mark Canna's up to bat. Let me tell you this funny story about the time he autographed a potato. I did ask Mark Canna about the time he autographed a potato. And you, when you bring a friend who may not give a shit about baseball, they're going to remember that. And then boom, every time Mark Canna is up to bat, they're going to sit and watch, right? But then halfway through the game, I'm kind of like, I'm bored. Let's go do a lap. Let's go take shots upstairs and then come back to the game. Like you have to you make it a social thing too. So that's what Cut 4 was. Just reminding you that baseball is fun without being too cheesy about it. And all of that. And it's quick and it's spicy and it's weird and funky. And that's the good shit. That's the good stuff. And I like that NBC lets me kind of do some of that still too.
I just found my selfie with Mark Hanna from 2015 in my phone, so I'm very happy.
He's the best.
Honestly, not even the nicest person I met that game, Ben Zobrist. He was
Yeah,
one
I
of
don't think I'm trying to think. Because Canada's just like a bro, right? Like just like super chill. You can tell the dude went to Cal. Like it's just like such a cool guy. And I was like, hey, so like, can I ask you, Sophie? I'll try to send y'all the link later. I was like, this is gonna be a weird question, but like, do you remember when you autographed a potato? He's like, yeah, you never forget the first time you signed a potato. And like I tweeted about it, and like everybody was like, of course, like, oh, that's what you asked him. I was like, fuck yeah, that's what I asked him. It was spring training. Nobody gives a fuck about that. The fact that you're like working on your swing, because I wrote about that 2 weeks ago. I want to know why that fan had a potato. So then I had to look for the fan, but the fan wasn't there. So it was a entertaining day to say the least.
That's something like I noticed when I was at that game, because at that same game, like we would go to Fenway Park with our friends and they'd always try to get like, oh, can you sign this? Can you sign this? Can you sign this? And you can tell that some of these guys are just like getting tired of just like signing stuff for people. And like, so me probably, I just like taking photos with people and just like saying hello and
Yeah.
seeing if they're nice people. And like, I had a legit conversation with Ben Zobrist He
That
asked
doesn't
me
surprise me at
he
all.
asked me what I wanted to like do after high school and gave me life advice, and that was lovely. He was very nice.
That's like the perfect word for Ben Zobrist. He's lovely.
Yes.
Whoops.
It
Like you can do it.
But so then after I talked to him, one of our buddies wanted something signed. He's like, "Can you sign this?" And then he's like, "Oh, like I can't, I actually have to run and do warm-ups." And like my buddy was like pissed off at him for some reason because he
Yeah,
wouldn't sign his
he thinks
baseball.
that
And
way.
but Will it was audibly like angry. So then after the game, our friends, because they just can't, like they have to get their baseball signed.
Are
Like,
they the guys that are these guys at slow pitch too?
no, they're
No.
not. Because while we're out playing slow pitch, they're out camping behind Fenway Park trying to get autographs through players' cars. Waited
Tigers.
outside, saw Ben Zobrist, and then like ran a block to get to Ben Zobrist, walked across the street, went up to Ben Zobrist, held out a pen and ball as Ben Zobrist was on the phone. Ben Zobrist stood there, stared at him, finished the conversation, was crossing the street still looking at him, and then hung up the phone, turned my buddy and said, "I heard what you said. Like, you can't treat people like that. Like, we're human. Like, sorry I couldn't sign your ball, but I had to go." And just called him out. And our buddy was just like, "That Ben Zobrist guy, he's so mean." I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about. He's the
It's the
most
greatest
lovely
move.
person in
This
baseball."
is a
One of
Stan
my-
account, a Zobrist Stan account now. Oh my gosh, good for him though.
It was awesome. I loved it. I cracked up so hard. It was so great because they're obnoxious. So it was so wonderful to see
That's
that.
amazing. Good for Ben.
Could you talk a little? I mean, you're just kind of talking about like questions that you ask players and whatnot. We have this question saved for later, but it would be a good one now. If you could like change an aspect about sports media, like what would you change? Because I can't imagine it being that fun. Being like, what was the mindset going into that at bat? Because like in reality, they're just trying to hit the freaking ball. Like
I think
your mentality doesn't really change, and your approach doesn't really change all that much.
yeah, I've never ever wanted, and I never will ask Paul Goldschmidt, "You went 0 for 4. How does that make you feel?" Like, fuck me. I'm fired on the I'll fire myself. We know. Like, hey, Mike Trout, you only went 1 for 3. MVP, really? Really? I like, and so I work with my editors a lot and they know who I am. They know I'm not going to ask a stupid question. The questions that I will be curious about is like a lot with pitchers, like, hey, like I know you were working on this one specialty pitch. How did that do? And I guess I'm just different. I don't know. And it's hard for me. I want to say my lack of journalistic education probably helps in that because like I'm like I don't fucking know, like I just want to make sure they're cool, and actually being a woman helps too, like if they just had a baby and or they just got married, like I genuinely want to make sure that they're good, they're like happy and they're good, especially if they're friends of mine. So I feel like the thing that I would change about sports media is to remind ourselves that these guys are humans like y'all said, and you know it isn't, if Paul Goldschmidt does go 0 for 4, he goes home to his family who love them no matter what. And I genuinely have these guys like best interest at heart. And I genuinely believe that. But they also know, like with Mike Fiers, for instance, he knew that we were going to ask him tough questions about the Astros cheating scandal. And we have to preface that. Like, I'm not going to come up there and be like, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, hey, Mike, I don't mean to be a dick, but I have to ask you this question. Mike was always cool about it. He's like, I know it's your job, whatever. But I think we have to remind ourselves that, like, I feel like with me and my job, you have to approach a lot of women with grace in this industry. And we have to do that with the players too. And we have to remind ourselves if they did have a tough game and we have to approach them and they don't want to talk to us, we can't take that personally unless they genuinely fucking hate you. Then maybe take it personally. Like if you twisted Trevor Bauer's words, he might remember and he might not be able to have he may not want to talk to you, and that's okay. So I think it's just don't be a dick.
Are there any players that hate you?
What's that?
You said except the ones that actually hate you.
Nobody hates me, Alex. I'm fucking cool, dude. Like, what kind of question would no? That's a stupid question, Alex.
You're never gonna make it in this industry.
You're never gonna make this industry. No, I don't think any players hate me. I mean, they might. Maybe they're just like a good sport and just answer my questions. But so far, so good. Knock on wood. But you know, there, I mean, you hear the stories like sometimes like the reporters just twist stuff or whatever. And I actually, luckily, I do have a decent relationship with Trevor Bauer where he has complained about the media. So that reminds me like, hey, if I write this, can I say that you were upset when you said this, or is that fair? And that's just me. Luckily, I'm a very curious person and I want to know about people just because that's who I am as like a human being. So I think it's just kind of like that. And then like you're walking into their second home, respect them. You don't have to bend over backwards for them or be all scared, but like you're walking into the place that they spend probably more time in their own house. And so respect them from that. And like remind yourself you're writing about baseball and it's a pretty fucking cool thing. So don't take it too seriously either. And develop a good relationship. I feel like that's important too.
Well, you brought up Trevor Bauer, so I'll just ask the question on
If
everybody's
you
mind.
fucking ask me where he's
Where
going,
does he like to get ice cream?
Oh, that's a good question. I actually don't know that. I don't know that.
I can't think of any other Trevor Bauer related questions.
There's nothing else, right?
We can
Nothing
just
else.
kind of move on from that.
I will say that wherever he ends up, I hope he's happy.
He's going to end up somewhere? Oh, no idea.
Maybe it's tonight and he goes to Chipotle. As long as he's happy, that's all I care about.
I mean, I just can't think of any like Trevor Bauer, Trevor Bauer, you know, kind of breaking news that could possibly break at the moment. I have no idea. I can't.
If I knew where he was going, I wouldn't say it on. No offense, I wouldn't say it.
Like, you wouldn't say. Wait,
you wouldn't break it on Sip Talk?
If you knew he was going to go to Ben and Jerry's, you wouldn't say. We'd find out if he was a Ben and Jerry's guy.
I'm like, oh, John Heyman, let me beat you to this. I'm gonna say it on this podcast. No, I can tell you though this: I will not break the news because
John Heyman knows where Bauer gets his ice cream.
John, actually, it's like the last person who would know anything about Bauer, but that's a whole different podcast. But I will say, I will not be the person to break the Bauer news because everybody thinks I am because Rachel's one of my best friends, but I won't. I'm not the person who. It's not my job.
That's got to be the biggest pain in the ass recently, right? Like that, like before we got into this, we're just like, okay, how can we turn this into a joke? I'm past the bit now, but I'm just like, she's got to be asked that so many freaking times.
Think about it this way. It kind of feels like I'm on a date with somebody and they're like asking about my famous friend the entire time. And it's like, because the last guy I was dating he got mad when I wouldn't tell him something about Trevor. And that's why I knew. I was like, okay, we're not working out. Like, there it is. But yeah, it does get annoying only from it because it's like, am I not good enough for you? Where I have a really cool story. I've done dope shit, but like, you want to know things about Rachel and Trevor, or like, hey, convince Trevor to sign with this team. I was like, I'm glad you think I have that much power. I can just like, hold up, Trevor.
Why are you telling me this at Red Lobster? I mean, probably not going to Red Lobster for a date, but still.
Where's the worst place you've been taken on a date, Jess?
The worst place?
Yeah.
I don't really know. Cause like, I'm like the worst person to ask. Like, I like a dive bar. Like I'm chill. Like there's no places where I'm like, this is disgusting. Cause I can adjust. But I was kind of offended the last date I went on. He let me split the tab with him on our first date. And I feel like that's I think y'all can tell, like, I'm very much a tomboy. I can take care of myself, but first date, I feel like the guy should pay, right?
First date guys always pays.
And I drove an hour to see him.
Well, hold on. What if your card gets declined? Unauthorized charge on your card, and then the girl that you're dating has to pick.
I wouldn't go on a date if I didn't have the money because I like to be prepared.
Well, what if you thought that you had the money and then apparently Norwegian Airlines double charged you?
You're like, what if this happens? It's like you're like making up all these situations that never would happen.
No, because there is a situation that's actually happened when Norwegian Airlines double charged his card and he had no money.
On a first date. But we're still together today, so.
So there you go. Like that, then it could be a test to know if that's your person. So that's my number one rule. It's like I'm gonna act like I'm gonna pay, but homeboy better step and be like, no, I got this. Not to mention I drove an hour to see him. Come on.
Did you go on a second date?
No, did not. Because he was weird. So.
Not worth the hour drive. What if it was only a 30-minute drive? Would you give him a second chance?
No.
Do you watch The Bachelor?
I watched this season with Ari because one of my girlfriends dated him. And like I kind of watched Becca because she ended up with the Reno guy, and I found it out because like everybody in Reno opens their mouth. I was like, I think we're like breaking a contract, but like continue. Like, okay. But I dabble in it. I am so shocked that Claire and Dale broke up. So shocked.
I think my dream is to turn this into a Bachelor podcast. So I'm hoping one day I can just get wine drunk with some people and start talking Bachelor for like 2 hours. So I got to ask all my guests.
Bachelor approached me about being a contestant once, like low key, like to the point where the video people at the place I was working at was like, hey, I know the ABC producers. They're really interested in you. And I think I was kind of dating somebody at the time. So I was like, no, it's kind of like whatever. And I wasn't quite established in my career, and I wasn't about to quit my job to fall in love. Like, fuck that.
It's okay. Matt's kind of bland this season. I think he's a nice guy. He's just a little bland. Yes, that I can.
You're either one or the other, though, Pete. Like, you can't. It's very given. I mean, I'm everything, but everybody else.
Or it could be like Pilot Pete last year and just be bland, terrible, a disgrace to every Pete out there. He was the worst.
Okay, I feel like we should, there's some off the record stuff we should talk about with that. But okay, yeah, sure.
We'll keep it on.
No, I actually do have a rule though. When I turn 35, I'm not going to tell you when that is, but when I do, I'm just going to sign up for either Married at First Sight or one of those like dating things where I just, I'm going to pitch a show where like my best friends go find me a man because I don't have time. I don't have time to even date these days. So
Married at First Sight. There's a New Zealand version that I watched when I was abroad in New Zealand, and that is like the only thing that'd be on TV. And it would be on like 3 times. Like they take it to a whole new level there. The people who go on are like celebrities in that country.
Oh.
And it is Married at First Sight in New Zealand is the pinnacle of reality TV. It is incredible. So I love
like
that
I
show.
would be like a celebrity in New Zealand. I would be considered a celebrity in New Zealand.
You'd have to switch to cricket.
Okay, well, I'll just do that.
Or rugby.
Or
the Wellington Phoenix. One of my jerseys. Crying about how they're god awful this year, but you don't care about that. Xander, where do you want pivoting? Where do you want to take this conversation?
I don't want to, but Hall of Fame. What are the thoughts?
Alex really is like, hey, I feel like Pete's like, hey, Alex, I'm gonna make you ask all the stupid questions. Go for it.
I know. I feel like I'm being the journalist. He gets all the fun questions.
The questions need to be asked. You want to talk about the Hall of Fame? Let's talk about the Hall of Fame.
Okay. So I guess I'll give you, Pete and I kind of talked about this at length last night. Our thoughts on it aren't as much on Bonds and Clemens as much as they are on Shilling.
Okay.
Pete,
I just did a podcast about it today, so I have plenty to talk about.
Yeah, I know. I listened to it. You released it late, and I was like, okay, gotta listen to what her thoughts on this are.
That was because I was like taking my time this week. That's for me.
Yeah. So that was the Bach Talk one, right?
Yes, that was Bach Talk with Britt Jorley.
So I actually had a couple of things that I disagreed with your co-host or your guest on it with Brittany.
Totally fine. What did you want to go ahead?
One of my main concerns when she was talking about Schilling is she was talking about black players' opinions on Kurt Schilling, which that's like yes, he's a racist against all people, but like black people aren't really the target of his racism. And then she gave like one example of a player that said he would still vote for him, but like that's not a representation of everyone. Like there's like a MLB alumni thing that like you submit your ballot in, and I think like 77 players submitted like who they would vote for this year, and then he was on like 55% of them. So even his peers, I don't think liked him or thought he was deserving. And then also like he doesn't represent baseball well. Like it's a thing of honor. It's not like the Hall of Fame. Yes, it has a museum. It's not a history museum. It's not the Hall of Fame of best stats on paper in the MLB. It's the Baseball Hall of Fame, who represents the game. And I just don't think that racism.
Okay, so I totally agree. However, she did make a good point when she made like, hey, should we just submit like their numbers and that be it? And I get where she was coming from, but like I was thinking about the way that Barry Bonds made me feel as a kid, and that was. I don't think we'll ever be able to duplicate a man stepping up to the plate and making whatever Sports Center was saying, shut the fuck up and go to his at bat. That I don't think that'll ever happen again. I genuinely believe that. But he was able to do that. And of course it was during the home run race, and like he set a record and everything like that. But what he also did was made people pay attention to the game as a Black man, right? And racism is very much alive in this country. We saw it the last couple of seasons. However, the character aspect, I still don't fucking get it, because your idea of character could be different from mine, from Pete's, from Britt's, from Kurt's, from Barry Bonds, right? So I also talked about Monty Poole, who I work with. He's a Black man and he gets a Hall of Fame vote, but he's very open on social media about racism and bigotry and feminism and everything like that. And he said, I was so disgusted to put a check mark by Kurt Schilling's name, but I did it anyway because he was one of the best pitchers in the last 50 years. And I respect the fuck out of that. I also am glad I do not have a Hall of Fame vote, because it just seems like a fucking joke now. And it's so nitpicky, and I'm so confused by it. And it's like, we finally are like etching away at letting somebody that is connected to steroids into the hall. But then it's like, oh, let's remember that Kurt did this. And I totally respect where you're coming from, but I feel like it needs to be even. So, and I get like, even with me with steroids, like my thought process with them over the years has changed. Like, I hated Barry Bonds growing up. Now I love the guy. He was so imperative to the success of this game, period. I don't care what you say. You want to say, oh, he was before steroids or whatever, like when he was my size in the Pirates and then he's bigger, like whatever. But at the same time, I'm just confused, because one year it's fine, and the next, because of what Kurt Schilling said in 280 tweet characters or less. So it's just like it's just very like we're being pulled so many different ways, and that's where I get frustrated.
Yeah. So I totally agree with you with like the Bonds and Clemens stuff. I wouldn't know how to vote for that, because
Right.
I'm torn like you. But I just think that something like, it's not really it's not like what's good or bad in anyone's view or his, like it's just hate speech and racism. So I read Monty's article.
Can I just jump in here real quick? I think the biggest, for me, I think one of the biggest or most telling things about this vote was that Schilling had about 10% more votes than Bonds and Clemens. I'm very indifferent about steroids. Like, obviously, like I don't want steroids to be in the game, but like I said, Barry Bonds, one of the most feared hitters of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Like at the end of the day, like that's just something I'm indifferent about, because the argument that, oh, well, like these records are now tainted, the numbers are tainted.
Mm-hmm.
I care more about protecting people from racism than numbers. And what was very disheartening for me was seeing that the math of that vote showed that there were voters who cared more about numbers than just blatant racism and hate speech. I think people who are saying that they want to take their votes back because of what Schilling tweeted regarding what happened to the Capitol a few weeks ago, I thought like, okay, I guess props on you for doing that, but like this isn't a new thing that he's been doing.
I also feel like the publicity of it is weird too. And Britt and I talked about that, and I totally supported her for saying like it's becoming like a showy thing, right? Like, oh, well, are people going to be mad because I voted this way? And I already struggle with that, you know, in my job. And we talked about that in the podcast. Like, I'm scared to death to look too sexy sometimes. So if that's going to make me think I'm scared I'm going to look too this because I voted for Kurt, because you guys wouldn't sit down with me and have a conversation sometimes, right? You'd just be like, oh, well, Jessica voted for Kurt, she must be racist. And that sucks, because you don't know how I'm feeling. You don't know how this person is feeling. And if this person voted for Kurt every single time he was on the ballot, that doesn't, I mean, think about it that way too. Like, if you were looking at the numbers and that's your God honest truth, you're going by the fact that he's a 6-time All-Star, 3-time World Series champion, low ERA, bloody sock shit. But then one day he does the Capitol stuff and you're like, oh, well, I'm taking it back. Then that's literally I get where they're coming from, but then it's like, so then what have you been voting for this entire time? And then I'm like I said, I'm still kind of confused about what the character aspect means. But I will say, if you do not want to vote for a man because of the awful things he did, I totally support that. But
Yeah, and that's
it's a sticky situation. But like I said,
100%. Definitely. That's
like,
where we're coming. We're coming to the experts.
yeah, because even Ken Rosenthal went on TV to say, I'm disgusted, but this is what I did. And I think it's a beautiful way to show that this can affect people. But I also see when people like Monty Poole want to vote for Kurt Schilling, and he's very anti-racism, obviously. So I get where he's coming from too. So I respect both parties. I genuinely do, which for me personally, I love that I listen to both sides, but think about it this way. When the Jared Porter stuff came out, I tweeted out, I think it's sucks for the guys who have my back, because whatever. People twisted that and said, oh, she must not support women. And it literally was not what I tweeted. So that's just how I am. And that's when my mentor at work, she says, no matter what you put out in the world, you're exposing yourself to criticism. So it doesn't matter if I voted for Ken Griffey Jr. every single time and that was it. Somebody is going to have an issue with that. And so I understand where they're coming from, but Britt makes a good point. Like, you shouldn't be scared to vote with how you feel. And
100%.
so that, and so I'm saying that I would go to bat for you two in a second. I would go to bat for Britt in a second. So it's just, and I would go to bat for Monty Poole in a second. So that's why I'm very glad
that you don't have a vote. Yeah, I mean, that's another thing that we kind of talked about, is that I think
it's good to have the conversations, and you guys did a beautiful job saying how you genuinely felt, and I feel like that's good.
We also think that the Hall of Fame means different things to different people. Like
that's
my Hall of Fame, like, it's just a place. Like,
and I get that too. Like, people want to get so off on the numbers, but like, I'm so romantic about it. Like, I think about what Barry Bonds did to me, or what Sammy Sosa and the Mark McGwire back and forth was what made me fall in love with baseball. I didn't look up baseball reference numbers at the age of 8 and 9. I didn't think about that. So to me, the fame part is more than the numbers. But then you can bring that into like, well, they're famous, but they're buttheads. No. I was raised.
And then you have the pure hitters that make me feel so special inside, like Todd Helton. Oh my goodness. I'm
What
gonna
if people argue his DUI is not.
I didn't even know he had a DUI until like last week. Well, 2 of them actually. But I mean, again, like, so
Pete's like, whatever.
I'm gonna die on that hill for Todd Helton to the Hall of Fame. Like, I planted my flag in that hill the first year is on the ballot, and I'm not coming down. Love Todd.
That's okay.
Todd father.
The Todd father.
So when I read Monty's article, because you shared it, and then I read
that. So, he's a great human being. Beautiful.
He was a great, yeah. I thought everything he said was great. The one problem I had with it, and again, this is just my opinion on it, was he referred to this article from 2013 in the New York Times, and Monty's argument for voting Schilling was there's a ton of assholes in the Hall of Fame who've done bad things, right? Yeah. So the article's from 2013, and I think the most recent 4, the article is about like bad people in the Hall of Fame and how they're still in the Hall of Fame. I think the most recent 4 at that point were Paul Molitor, Wade Boggs, and Orlando Cepeda. I think I said his name right. Yeah. Cepeda, yeah. So, but I just think they're like, even those 3, those are the most recent 3, and that was from 1980 to 2013. 2 of them were for marijuana possessions, and one of them was because he was a sex addict. What?
That's literally like Britt and I talked. You're literally going over all the things that Britt and I talked about.
So I actually didn't listen to the weed part. I saw that it was on the agenda. I didn't listen to that weed part. But I mean, I think
about this way. When I had to write about John Singleton when he got popped, he was kind of like the beginning of like the new era of getting popped for weed. He this is, I don't really tell people this, but him and his girlfriend at the time text or messaged me on Insta, Twitter, whatever it was. And they said, you were the only person that wrote about it. And we're talking big names. And all I did was did the newser. I said, he got popped for weed. This is how much he's suspended for. And these were his numbers. He was this up and comer. A lot of the reporters like judged him for smoking weed. And she made a good point. John Singleton, who was a top prospect, had a lot of potential, got shunned. Tim Lincecum was celebrated for smoking pot because he was a fucking Cy Young Award winner and getting all the ladies, and like, he's a great dude. No situation there. But isn't that stupid? Like, look all the stuff we do with Josh Gordon, because he's constantly getting
I think we're going to look back on Josh Gordon in 20 years and be like, what do you mean he wasn't allowed to have a career because of weed?
Exactly.
I mean, that's the thing, but we progressed. That again, that was my real only issue with his article.
Is that you mentioned weed, and I feel like it was in that era and people weren't being very progressive. So that they're like, even John Singleton is still known as the guy who got in trouble and was drug of abuse. They don't even say weed, right? So when I have to report on it, unless I 100% know that it was weed, if you look underneath the category of drug of abuse, it could be black tar heroin, it could be cocaine, which I don't think it's actually black tar heroin. I would hate to think that's a drug of abuse, but whatever. So it could be anything. They're not specific. You're popped for drug of abuse, and it could be marijuana / all these terrible things that you see on like Intervention, like that show.
Yeah,
so
exactly. But I mean, we progress as a society, so I don't really think it's even worth saying, oh, we have shitty people in the Hall of Fame. Well, we shouldn't be really holding our standards to the guys in 1938. Yeah. So I mean, that's really our thought, but we can move away from the Hall of Fame. You want to get into rapid fire? I don't know what type of time crunch you're on.
I'm chilling. We're good.
Jess, how do we fix baseball? What is baseball's biggest issue right now?
I think we just need to kind of embrace it for what it is. And I understand transitioning. I feel like I understand what Rob Manfred was doing at the beginning, and I genuinely do. Like, okay, you're trying to speed it up and let's figure out ways to do that. But it's not like NBA and NFL, you can like shed actual time off of it. So I think that's what it is. And try to market players a little bit better. And listen to the players, like listen to what they actually want. And I got to be honest, and I was talking to one of my interns about it, and he was like, I feel like I'm trying to, and this is going to sound very cocky and facetious or whatever, I feel like I'm on this island by myself trying to remind people how fucking cool baseball is. And I get it, I'm different, and I understand that, like, I'm a reporter, but I'm also like a news sports personality. So it's hard sometimes to kind of put me in a box. But that's the thing. That alone is saying we should stop putting these guys in a box. So embrace pop culture too. And I had Rachel Bakovec on Back Talk recently, and she's like, bring TikTok stars to the games, or make more celebrities go to the games, or, just stuff like that. And have me try to enhance the players and show people that these guys are fun. And like I told you, bring a girlfriend to a game and telling her about Mark Canha signing a potato. You need more people like that. And you need me to tell people about that stuff. Like Mark Canha at the end of the game, cool, he played well, whatever, but it's like, ask a weird question every now and then. Like, if you hear of like a certain player is quiet, that's my favorite player to talk to. Because I'm gonna make that guy talk. I'm gonna make him talk. Not in a weird way, like talk. Like, I just want to get a good conversation going. And then that alone, my personal goal is like, when I have people on my podcast, I want them to forget it's a podcast. I want them to be like, I'm just having a beer with one of my boys who has long hair and is a girl. Yeah. And I want them to like have fun with that. And that's ultimately what it is, because you develop that relationship and it's cool. And I want it to be a conversation, not like, hi, where were you born? What is your sign? Do you like baseball, or do you just have to play baseball? Like, come on.
Where are you going to sign?
Yeah. I should have Trevor on Bach Talk and be like, where are you going to sign? Oh, you're not going to answer that? Okay. I'm not talking to you now. That's it. Like,
just a 30-second podcast.
Have him get him super comfortable. Be like, so we're going to sign Trevor. And then that's it. Just kidding. I wouldn't do that. That's a waste of putting eyelashes on. And no man is worth a 3-second conversation after wearing eyelashes. So just stuff like that. Like have fun with it. Talk about their walk-up songs. Talk about why they chose the walk-up song. Talk about what makes certain things special and everything like that. Like there's so many things that we can talk to the guys about, but like not force it on them. You know, like there's times where they just don't want to talk to us, and that's okay. And remind ourselves that they do read a lot of our work. They do, because mama hears it. If I fuck up, I hear it.
Totally agree with you. Like promoting, like I feel not to use Bauer as an example again, but like I feel like the baseball world totally shunned him a few years ago with the whole drone incident. It's like this dude has an interest outside baseball. Yeah, he shouldn't have been fucking around with the drone before a playoff game, but like tap into that. Like he is an interest. Trevor Bauer, from I don't know him obviously, but like he seems like one of the most interesting people in the league. But like he stands up against bullies. Like he's a great person. Like freaking market him. Jesus, like people make him. I feel like the media makes him like baseball's bad guy sometimes.
Well, and I feel like it's better now. I feel like he was way more misunderstood at the beginning, and now that the media pissed him off enough where he created his own media company, so he doesn't have to talk to us and he can say what it's on his mind, so we're not the ones that are twisting it. That alone shows, and that way he's telling you who he is. He's not lying, and he's showing you who he actually is. So he doesn't have to hide behind the media, because the media pisses him off. And I literally am a member of the media, and he employs me. So that's that thing, you know, like he's not bad at all. And
yeah, no, I think like if you can get like, I read Barry Zito's book, and like, have you listened to his music?
I listened to one song, and I will leave it at that.
So like again, like you can say what you want about his music and stuff, but like you can tell that it makes him happy. Like these guys have like obviously a lot of them really enjoy playing baseball, but like that's not their only interest. That's like saying Jess's only interest is writing. Like I'm sure you have significantly more interest than just reporting.
Madison Bumgarner's a cowboy. Like
rides dirt bikes.
I still don't get how that story was not talked about. Sorry, what'd you say?
Mason, what's his cowboy name though?
Oh yeah, it's Mason something.
That was not talked about enough.
I talked to a lot of people about that, because right after it happened, I had 3 Diamondbacks on Bach Talk, and it was obviously we were easily able to talk about Madison because he just left the Giants to the Diamondbacks, and it was a great conversation. I loved it. People were very open about it. They're like, "Oh, we love that Madison Bumgarner lied about his name to compete in the rodeo. It's great."
All right. Jess, which player in Major League Baseball is most like a Merlot? A soft, approachable wine.
Oh, Marcus Semien.
Marcus Semien. I apologize for your loss.
It's fine.
It's okay.
They were like, "Hey, Jess, we want you to tape 2 minutes of you talking about the Semien thing." I was like, "I can cry for 2 minutes. Yeah, let's do this."
What is the worst stadium in baseball, and why is it the Coliseum?
The Coliseum is the worst stadium in baseball, but it hosts a lot of amazing memories for me.
The best weird Olympic sport.
Oh, curling. Absolutely.
Yeah. Jess, you want to join my curling team?
I'm actually really into it. I want to try curling like so bad.
I curled for 11 years.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Pete, you don't just admit that. But like, okay, no, I'm just kidding. No, that's great. I think that's great.
I'm trying to get back in the game. I haven't curled since senior year of high school, but because I'm out in the desert. But when I'm graduated, I'm ready to get back in the game. We're gonna have an all-star lineup of Sip Talk guests, and
I'll be there.
Keith Falk said he wanted to curl, right?
Keith Falk wanted to curl. I think I can get Saul to curl.
I'll be on your team and like do the play-by-play or the reporting at the same time.
Perfect. Yeah. It's also a big drinking sport, so it's
talk me into it. There it is.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it sounds right up Jess's alley. What is your favorite vineyard? Not favorite wine, your favorite vineyard.
Actually, there's one. It's called Hannah Lee, and it's the small one out here in the Bay, but it's not like in actual Napa, like Napa County. And it's like $10, and it's Hannah Nicole Winery, Hannah Nicole, and it's like never crowded, super cheap, very like local feel, which kind of reminds me of Reno, but like with a winery. So it's Hannah Nicole out in Brentwood, the North California Brentwood, and it's lovely. Yeah.
And to follow that one up, what is the best wine that you've ever had?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Or you can do your go-to, whatever you want to do.
I usually drink Pinot Noirs. And there's
Oregon Pinot Noirs?
Yes, actually, I think there's one called Ralph, and it's named after the winemaker's past, like, dead dog, which sounds bad. Like and it was. I remember I bought it like because I was like in a rush to go to Safeway because I was covering. I was doing Corked Up. We need to drink wine while we're doing it, and it ended up being like really really good. So it's a Pinot Noir called Ralph, and it's like a cute little dog with a halo on it. And I tagged them, and they didn't sponsor us, so like whatever.
That's sad.
I did an Instagram post for you. Like you don't even care.
What is the best stop on the BART?
I was robbed on BART once. Not that one.
Between which stops?
And why is it the Coliseum?
That's my favorite stop because I'm at the Coliseum. I think Montgomery because that's my stop when I go into the studio. And actually Embarcadero. I don't usually use that stop, but it's like right when you get off, you're like right at the waterfront near the pier and everything like that. That's a great. I haven't been on BART in almost a year, dude. That's crazy. And I took it 5 days a week to go into the office. So
yeah, I was taking our transit system to class every single day, and I just haven't been on it in a year. It's so weird. And they're building the new track right outside my apartment, so that's exciting.
Yeah.
Has there been a time that you cook something where you're like, hold on, I did that?
Yeah, and it sounds like a really simple recipe, but I make this really good homemade pizza, and I add it's like asparagus and garlic. And because like when I grew up in Reno, one of my best friends was vegetarian. She's not anymore. I don't know how that happened. Probably because she reminded herself that chicken wings exist. And so I'd make this really good pizza, and I just kind of I'll just like add random stuff to it to like make it not just a pizza, and it's like a flatbread but really good. So every time I do that, like people are very impressed, and there's like asparagus on it, and I know it sounds kind of funky, but people that may not like vegetables are still super into it. And I make a really good. I'm still trying to perfect the chicken wings, of course. So maybe in a year, I can say my chicken wing sauce is like the best.
Ghirardelli chocolate, overrated, underrated, or properly rated?
It's fine. I'm like, I'd rather have like fruity, chewy candy as opposed to chocolate, but I feel like Lindt is like the best chocolate that like you go and get, and like C's is good, but
yeah,
like when you go to Ghirardelli, like you have to get like their hot chocolate, and they serve that at Giants games. And that's when it's just like extra good, and their ice cream's really really good too because they put the chocolate sauce on it, and it's just so good. So I think it's a little overrated, but I'm also not a big chocolate person.
Follow-up question: favorite fruity chewy candy?
It's a great question. I like Airheads. I love Airheads, but not the AirPod or the Airhead shoes. They just taste totally different. So I like Airheads.
Like the 5-cent sticks.
Yeah, or like the Nerds ropes are really good. I love Nerds, and like the watermelon chews and Starburst, the tropical kind, because like yellow Starbursts are disgusting. I don't care what people say.
Whoa.
I know.
Okay.
I fucking knew Pete was a yellow Starburst.
How is the Hall of Fame not the most hot button issue on this podcast?
I know. So,
yellow Starburst plain, yes, not great, but they pair well with other things. That's why I've actually
not good if you have to bring something else into it.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like skills. Like if you just have like a handful of purple skills, it's not going to taste good.
Delicious.
It's all about the pairing.
When I was growing up, I would only eat the red and the purple Skittles.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
great pairing.
Recently,
It's the
I
best two
started
flavors.
eating the orange, but
Green,
like because
green Skittles changing to apple is terrible because they
That's
don't
not
even pair
true.
well. It's
That 100%
disgusting.
is
The
not
green
true.
Skittles are terrible.
I don't like
Skittles are
lime
disgusting.
though. Not a lime person.
See,
And-
I like the Starburst minis because you can pair more things with that yellow. So you can throw some orange in there, throw some
Okay.
reds in there, and because like if you have 4 full-size Starbursts in your jaw, that's like I mean good jaw workout, I guess, but
Makes
that's
me
gonna
think
be
of like Terry
painful.
Francona.
Yes,
Like that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, U of A alumni Terry Francona, who
There it
I
is.
try to say hello to at football games and only looked at me once, but I'll take it.
There
But no, I'm hopping on the Starburst mini train. That's a good study
I
snack.
need to have to do that. Yeah. Okay. I respect that.
And then our final rapid fire question: what is the second best bridge in the Bay Area?
What's the first one? The Golden Gate.
I would hope
I
so.
would hope so.
I think I like the Bay Bridge because that means I'm either going to the studio or like a cool trip's happening. And it was the first bridge that I actually went on I've only been on the Golden Gate for the first time maybe a year and a half ago, ever. And now I see it all the time when I go to Baker Beach. But the Bay Bridge was like when I was driving on it, I think for the first time from what I remember, that was when I was getting my interview with NBC Sports Bay Area. It was like the first interview in person, or like after the stuff. And they were very sweet. They set me up for the night because I was like driving in from Reno and they gave me a nice hotel and stuff. So I would say the Bay Bridge for sure. And it's really pretty at night. It lights up really pretty and everything like that.
Actually, I have one more question. Does Northeast Nevada exist?
Okay, first of all, if you fucking pronounce it Nevada, no, it's Nevada.
Does Northeast Nevada exist?
Never eat. Yeah, I don't know what's over there, but
So if you don't know what's over there, then you cannot confirm that it exists.
yeah, I'm sure it's there on a map. I don't know.
It's there on a map, but I don't know if it exists. Like I
I'm
don't
in
know what's
northern
there. It could be
Nevada.
anything.
I'm in northern Nevada, so anything that way.
I'm Pete Sippis. This is Sip Talk. Thanks for listening.